Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to unpack something that happens every single day, probably millions of times across the globe, yet it's almost entirely invisible to the naked eye. We are looking at the frankly dramatic biological cascade that happens inside fresh produce during transport. And to keep things focused, we're going to trace the journey of a humble, everyday tomato.
Right off the bat, let's dive into the main question here. What actually goes down inside a tomato the very second it hits the floor? As consumers, we might look at a tomato that just rolled off a counter or bounced around in the back of a delivery truck, and if it doesn't have a visible bruise on the skin, we just assume it's perfectly fine. But science tells us a completely different story. Right beneath that unblemished skin, a literal microscopic panic is unfolding.
And it turns out there's a magic number when it comes to this kind of trauma: 100 centimeters. That's roughly 3 feet, which is right about the height of a standard kitchen counter or the bed of a pickup truck. Researchers have identified that this specific drop height is a critical threshold. Hitting the ground from 100 centimeters triggers a complete, irreversible biological meltdown inside fresh produce.
Now, to really understand this meltdown, we've got to talk about ethylene. Ethylene is a plant hormone that's mostly known for regulating fruit ripening and aging, but it's also a plant's built-in SOS signal. The precise moment a tomato drops, it releases ethylene. It's essentially a chemical stress signal that tells the fruit to hit the gas pedal on its own aging process in response to the mechanical injury.
Here's how we'll break it down today. First, we'll look at the hidden cost of transport. Then, we'll examine the actual chemistry of a drop. Compare green versus red tomato resilience, trace the physical damage, and finally, we'll talk about rethinking tomato logistics.
All right, part 1, the hidden cost of transport. This isn't just about a clumsy moment in your kitchen. This is a massive agricultural challenge, especially in developing regions where road infrastructure can be pretty rough. As noted in the source material, mechanical damage during transit not only causes physical damage, but also seriously affects the internal quality, exacerbating post-harvest losses. Basically, the constant vibrations and drops during transit silently degrade the produce. It changes the flavor, drops the vitamin C levels, and alters the acid content. This invisible damage strips farmers of their economic value and literally destroys the shelf life of our food before it even reaches a grocery store display.
Moving right along to part 2, the chemistry of a drop.
So how exactly do you measure a microscopic panic that you can't even see? Well, to understand exactly how transport destroys value, researchers set up this meticulous, highly controlled experiment in a lab. They didn't just casually throw tomatoes against a wall, they precisely isolated specific drop heights onto a concrete floor. 10 centimeters, 30, 50, and our critical threshold of 100 centimeters, all compared against a 0 centimeter control group. By doing this, scientists could measure the exact dose-dependent response to mechanical stress. They basically wanted to know, does a bigger drop mean a bigger biological panic?
And the answer? Yeah, it's a resounding yes. The data shows that just 24 hours after a 100 centimeter drop, both green and red tomatoes essentially start hyperventilating. They exhibit these massive spikes in carbon dioxide production. The green tomatoes peaked at 350.1 microliters per gram per hour, and the red tomatoes hit 338.2. They're quite literally burning through their internal energy reserves simply because they took a tumble.
That brings us to part 3, green versus red resilience.
Now, you might be wondering, does the age of the tomato actually matter here? How does a tomato's maturity, whether it's youthful, hard and green, or mature, soft and red, affect its ability to handle this physical trauma? Honestly, you'd probably assume the harder green tomato is tougher, right? Well, the biological data tells a completely different, fascinating story. It turns out, youthful green tomatoes severely overreact to the drop. They show immediate massive ethylene spikes peaking around 48 hours. Researchers found this is likely due to the brand new gene expression of an enzyme called ACC oxidase. The green tomato panics and basically hits the self-destruct button. On the flip side, the mature red tomatoes seem to have a built-in regulatory mechanism. While they definitely get stressed, they actually manage to throttle their stress response over time, showing a controlled decrease in ethylene production by week 2.
What's wild is that this physical impact literally rewires the tomato's metabolomic profile. The drop causes the fruit to rapidly pull up specific chemicals, namely methionine and ACC, and these are the exact chemical precursors needed to trigger rapid aging. So think about that. The tomato is actively building the ammunition for its own decay just hours after hitting the floor. Okay, let's get into part 4, tracing the physical damage. So how does all this unseen internal chemistry actually turn into visible ruin? Well, all of this internal chemical panic eventually breaches the cellular walls, leading to physical damage we can actually measure. Scientists track this cellular damage through something called electrolyte leakage. Think of the cells inside a tomato as millions of tiny water balloons. When the tomato drops from 100 centimeters, the sheer force of the impact severely fractures these cellular membranes. That 100 centimeter drop acts as the ultimate breaking point, and electrolytes begin leaking right out of the cells. In the green tomatoes especially, this leakage just progressively worsens day after day as the cell walls simply give up.
And watching this progress over 14 days perfectly illustrates the true physical cost of that membrane damage. On day 1, to the naked eye, the control tomatoes and the drop tomatoes look virtually identical. You wouldn't know the difference. But fast forward to day 14. Because of that invisible electrolyte leakage and the massive ethylene panic, the green tomatoes dropped from 100 centimeters have violently changed color and totally deteriorated. Meanwhile, the red tomatoes have lost all their firmness and begun heavily shriveling. The visual proof of that initial chemical panic is completely undeniable.
Finally, we arrive at part 5, rethinking tomato logistics.
Pulling this all together, we can clearly see that a single moment of impact, just one brief drop, basically guarantees the future destruction of the fruit, no matter how pristine it looks on day 1. Let's quickly recap the biological domino effect we've mapped out here. Step 1, a physical impact, like a drop in a truck. Step 2, immediate microscopic membrane damage, which we measure as electrolyte leakage. Step 3, the fruit panics, screening out stress signals through massive spikes in ethylene and CO2. And finally, Step 4, this whole chemical cocktail guarantees accelerated decay, visible rot, and shriveling.
This leaves us with a really massive, honestly fascinating challenge for the future of agricultural logistics. If a simple 100-centimeter drop entirely dictates the molecular destiny of our food, triggering this unstoppable cascade of aging and rot, how must we redesign our packing, our transport trucks, and our road systems to respect these invisible biological limits? It definitely changes how you look at a simple tomato, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope you leave today with a newly sparked curiosity about the hidden science driving the world around us.